Boris Johnson is responsible for renewed instability in Northern Ireland. The hard Brexit he favoured threatened the Good Friday Agreement, and now, egged on by the Tories, the DUP are holding the Northern Irish Assembly to ransom until the UK dumps the Northern Ireland Protocol. It's a mess of Britain's making. And I have a theory as to how we got here. It's that barely anyone in Britain knows anything about Northern Ireland. This was an audience intervention on this week's Question Time.
I don't know what's changed since I went to school, but Northern Ireland was always part of Great Britain. So for the EU to start negotiating and introduce this border, what's it got to do? We don't have a problem with stuff going from England to Wales or England to Scotland. So as Northern Ireland's part of Great Britain, why should we have this border? Why don't someone grow a pair and tell the EU to go and sling their rock? Because it's part of the Great Britain, it's not part of the EU. Southern Ireland is, but Northern Ireland ain't.
Northern Ireland is not and has never been part of Great Britain. Great Britain is the name for the island made up of England, Scotland and Wales. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. And more concretely, there is a reason that after Brexit, trade with Northern Ireland can't be the same as trade between England, Scotland and Wales. It's called the Good Friday Agreement, a document which ended decades of violence caused by, yes, British colonialism. Now, at this point, you might be asking why we're picking on some random guy in the audience for having a poor grasp of the history and politics of Britain and Ireland, and you might have a point. But the same can't be said for our next clip. Suella Braverman is Britain's Attorney General. She's the cabinet member taking a lead on the Northern Ireland Protocol, and this is what she said on Question Time.
What we've also seen is a wholesale collapse of the political institution governing Northern Ireland. We've seen the Stormont executive collapse because the majority of MLAs, the members of the executive who are unionists, refuse to support the protocol and refuse to take part in that executive. That's a precondition for the Good Friday Agreement. That is damaging the Good Friday Agreement, the foundation of peace. It is damaging the delivery of services for the Northern Irish people. It's damaging trust in Northern Ireland as part of the United Kingdom. And as a government and as a Conservative, a proud Conservative and Unionist Party member, I cannot sit by and watch the breakup of our United Kingdom.
What Suella Braverman said there was simply false. She said the majority of MLAs in the Northern Irish Assembly were Unionists. In fact, only 41% of MLAs are, with the rest being nationalist or non-aligned. Even more significant was her lie about the protocol. Braverman suggested the majority of MLAs oppose the Northern Ireland Protocol, but in fact, both Sinn Féin and the Cross Community Alliance Party back it, meaning there is a majority in favour of the protocol. And it really is worth emphasising. Braverman is the person in the cabinet with the biggest role in determining Britain and Northern Ireland's future relationship. And she's either lying about Northern Ireland or has absolutely no idea what's going on there. I'll go to Aaron on this in one moment. First, though, I can't resist showing you the original, the classic clip of an audience member's big brain take on the politics of Ireland. It's from a couple years ago, but worth watching again.
Another point I'm going to make is the DUP and the EU seem to be really levering the Ireland backstop thing for the whole of Brexit. There's thousands of issues, I'm sure, to do with Brexit, but it's always to do with the Good Friday Agreement, the DUP, the Northern Ireland backstop, all this. I'm like, well, why does that one issue stop and put a big break on the whole thing and we have to negotiate around that? Why doesn't it, it's going to sound crazy, but Ireland being referred to as Ireland, the island of Ireland, why don't we try and just get that as an island again? And then we can carry on with our own thing.
Just no longer have Northern Ireland...
Break up the union?
Yes, break up, no longer have it as part of
just
the United Kingdom.
Ireland, the whole of Ireland.
Sorry, I love that clip. Obviously, I am much more sympathetic to that guy than the first one we showed you, but the compilation of all three clips do show how little most people in Britain have ever thought about Ireland. Obviously, that guy in the polo shirt didn't invent the concept of Irish unity, despite what he might imagine. Aaron, how much does it matter, this ignorance in Britain of the politics of Ireland and Northern Ireland?
I'll correct you there, actually, and I'll push back on the premise of the question. I would say the ignorance is primarily English. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people in Wales or Scotland who would say something similar. Of course they would. But I think for England in particular, there is a unique ignorance about our sense of national identity and also our political identity. So what do I mean? Well, I think for most English people, there is a lack of awareness and understanding, or even actually just caring fundamentally about, well, what's the difference between Great Britain and the United Kingdom, which is, of course, Great Britain and Northern Ireland? What's the difference between England and Britain? You know, up until the Second World War, the 50s, the 60s, it was quite common to sort of use Britain and England interchangeably. And there is a reason for this, which is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is composed of 4 states and overwhelmingly, 4 nations rather, overwhelmingly the largest is England. I think out of 65 million people, 56 million are English. And Britain itself, the concept of Britain as a nation, emerges from the collapse of the world's largest ever empire, which was the British Empire. And so we're only sort of 2-3 generations into that, Michael. And so the older gentleman there, just talking complete crap, he was probably raised in a sort of post-imperial context. Let's say he's born in 1950, 55. The political atmosphere within which he grew up was very much one of, this polity is effectively still a continuation of the British Empire, which unraveled kind of slowly through to the mid-1960s. So there are concrete explanations why English people in particular are so bad on this. I find the default quite interesting. You know, it has manifestations like that, which are negative, and it has positive ones, like the gentleman in the turtleneck. But I also think it's the default of most English people when they're, and I think this is quite rare, and I think it's very positive actually, when they're confronted with, oh, well, Scotland might vote to leave the UK. Okay, well, that might be good or bad. They might be unhappy or sad, whatever, but that's their business. And I think generally speaking, that is the default with regards to Scotland, Northern Ireland. I'm not saying it's the position of the elite or of the media or Westminster or MI5, because it ain't. I'm talking in regards to the electorate. There is public opinion which is more favourable to that than there is, say, in Spain towards independence for Catalonia. We've seen that, you know, time after time with opinion polling. And I think, ironically enough, I think that ambivalence about whether or not these nations leave the Union is partly born out of ignorance.
Well, I mean, I think clearly in the case of Brexit, the ignorance of, I probably agree with you as well, the ignorance of England has done a lot of damage because, you know, there was a settlement which worked for both communities. Essentially, you know, predominantly England voted for an outcome which completely undermined that without knowing or caring why or how. And then you've had a government which has behaved completely irresponsibly towards Northern Ireland, you know, by signing the protocol and then ripping up the protocol. And now they don't have a devolved government, essentially because the Tories are egging on the DUP. They're pretending the DUP position is the majority position when it's absolutely not the majority position. The majority position in Northern Ireland is in favour of the protocol. You know, so you have got an English government which is playing games with Northern Ireland. And I think that the reason they are able to do that and act so irresponsibly is because of, well, their own ignorance, but also the fact that, you know, it's not going to become a live electoral issue because no one really understands it. But I think you are right. When it comes to, you know, an actual vote for independence, especially in the case of, you know, Scotland, that seems, you know, more plausible in the very near future. The indifference of the English might be quite helpful. It's just sort of like live and let live, you know. Well, if they want to go on their own way, fine. If they want to stay, they can stay. If they want to go, they want to go, which is probably the right attitude towards self-determination.
It's like, you know, they've got the sort of the Chad meme, and then you've got like the kind of like the guy crying. So that's like MI5 and the BBC is like, no, you need to care about the union. And they're like, you know, like this guy in the turtleneck, I have no idea what's going on. Let them do what they want to do. We kind of saw that a little bit in 2014. I don't think many people saw Scottish independence as viable. Ultimately, it lost by 10%, which is a big margin. If you look at, for instance, Trident missiles are based in deep water ports in Scotland. It'd be very hard to relocate them. I think if there was another referendum with regards to Scotland, I think you'd see the whole NATO thing and, oh, you know, somehow if Scotland leaves the Union, it means we're exposed to Russia, God knows how. These would be the arguments in circulation. I think it would be far more venomous and angry than the first time round, but that would be pushed by the media, by elite discourse. It wouldn't be coming from the bottom.